Welcome to the VA Today pod and videocast with your host, Gail Alexander, a podcast about VAs, for VAs, and businesses looking for the right VA to help to start grow their business. Find the right VA today and visit VA Today on YouTube and ava-ni.com to find out more about VAs and what they can do for you, and get in touch with the virtual assistants you need today.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the VA Today. I'm Gail Alexander, and today joining me is Linda Machado. And I think I got that right today because this is actually the second time we've done this recording. So I'm going to say bon dia.
Bon dia. Hello, Gail.
And so I'm saying that because Linda's joining us all the way from Madeira, Portugal, which is fabulous. And I'm well jealous. But anyway, Linda's company is Virtual Assistant Portugal, and she offers services in social media, secretarial, marketing, website, languages, website research, PA, and has been PA all the way up to executive level for companies in Singapore, and worked in tourism and health tourism and the IT industry as well as the spa industry. So it's quite a varied career and a lady with a lot of experience. So welcome today, Linda, and I'm really glad you can join us, or you can join us again for the second time.
Well, things happen. It's the second time we have this interview. It's okay. It's not a problem. It's a way to improve, as we always have to do as virtual assistants. We have to be prepared for any surprises, and things do happen. When something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So this is one of the things that we have to adapt in our daily life as virtual assistants. So don't worry about that. Thank you for the invitation again. Let's start then the interview with a good positive mindset, and let's do it again. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Linda. You're so gracious about it. So when we were talking before, we talked about the VA industry, and as you were saying, it's something that you need to be really flexible in. Things do happen, but it's also the nature of the job that your client may want things at different times of the day. So yesterday we started off talking about how you actually became a virtual assistant in the first place. So if you just want to explain to us and the audience about how you came about.
Yes, I actually didn't search to become. I was not thinking about becoming a virtual assistant. It didn't cross my mind. I was actually having a pause on my executive assistant work. Actually, at the time, back in 2013, I was working in the spa industry as a spa therapist and sales agent in the spa, customer service in general. So I had decided that I wanted to have a break, and I didn't wanted to do anything about in front of a computer about secretary work. But then suddenly one day, back in September 2013, I suddenly received an invitation through LinkedIn from a company based in Singapore. They were looking for a personal assistant to work remotely, and they asked me if I knew somebody that could do who could do this job. And I asked myself, well, why not me? This is something that I just don't know how to do remotely, but it's all my background as assistant, as personal assistant, executive assistant, secretary, whatever you want to call it. And so I decided, well, I'm here, and I accept this position. And so that's how I became a visual assistant. At the beginning, I was working full-time for this company. So I didn't actually had to look for any customers, like, well, it's different. It's a different part when I compare myself to other virtual assistants, maybe. But that's how I became a virtual assistant. It was by invitation, and then working remotely, doing what I always have done in a team, in a company, in a local company.
Yeah. So it's good to hear that you say, why not me? And right enough, why not me? I think especially for women, they should say that, why not me? I can do this. And when you think that you were working in a spa and then you ended up in a slightly different industry, but your previous history allowed you to do that. And I think people should realize that what they have done previously and their experience and their skills does all make a difference. It's all valuable experience, and especially for the VA industry, because your clients can be so varied and need so many different skills. So it's a really great industry to work in because of that reason. So as you say, why not me? Anyone can do it if they really have the drive, the passion, and the flexibility to do it and try it. So you were saying that you started in 2013, and did you set yourself up working from home, or was it, did you use any other like working spaces, or was it completely remotely?
It was completely remote. It was the first time I actually worked completely remote, in a completely remote position. I had more than 20 years working in companies, but in a team, in an office, with other people. And then within this position, I started working from home. First thing, I live by myself. I am a solo worker, solo woman. So I have only a dog. I don't have husband or children or a partner. So it was really an immersion, being alone, working alone, full time. It was quite a big challenge at the beginning. But well, I consider now that it gave me a good experience, and work. When you work by yourself, you have to find solutions, challenge yourself, facing the loneliness of your working life. It's difficult. It was quite difficult at the beginning, actually. It's much easier now that I am working only part-time as virtual assistant for this company, and I am now looking for other customers to work on more on an hourly plan, not to be all the time too many hours in front of a computer all by myself.
I think when you were talking there about your challenge of going from working in an office to working at home, and the isolation that some VAs and like yourself would have felt, but when you said that it's now easier, it shows that VAs and yourself have had to build up a lot of resilience, and so it's really great characteristic to have, and it lends itself well to being a VA, because you are thrown into so much that you have to learn on the job nearly, and you have to learn yourself so as to help your clients. So saying that, was there any specific training you did yourself, or was it any specific tools that you taught yourself, or did you go out and find training for that?
Actually, I didn't have the time to go out for training. I used all the free training that we can find online to get the maximum information that I could for this position, regarding apps, apps to use on my phone daily, all the, for instance, time control program software like Toggle. I use Toggle now. I didn't have to use it at the beginning because I was working full time. But now that I have hourly clients, I do need to use new apps. So all this information, I got it online. I didn't have time to go. Well, I would say time and money, because it's important when we work for ourselves. Sometimes we don't have the financial income. It's not enough to pay for paid training, and there is so many. There are so many options online that you can use to enhance your needs in terms of updating your technology, updating even for the software. I remember I told you yesterday, one of the things that I got, it was most difficult for me, it was adapting to new Microsoft Office. It's incredible. This is the main tool that I have to use all day. And I was feeling so comfortable with the old versions that I had that I didn't update it. And this was one of the most challenging software that I had to adapt to the new version. So everything is online. We can search for information. There are great sites that allow us to have training, whether it's on language, even language training, foreign language, and then all the tools that we need. I have most of my training is made online. I went to, well, I can say 2-3 workshops on digital marketing, for instance. It was important to get something, to get a faster knowledge when I started using social media management as a service. But then, other than that, it's everything online. I still do everything online, all my training.
I think that's right. I think you're so used to being in school or university and you're told what you need to learn and how to do it. So it's quite daunting for yourself to go, oh my goodness, I need to do something. How do I do it? But as you say, it's all out there. You can use the likes of Vimeo or YouTube to search for something, Google or Quora to find out about something. And then there's plenty of training tools out there. There's like Udemy and Allison.com and so many places to find training, and the tools that you also need quite often will have the free versions of. You don't need to spend money. Toggle I love. It's one of my favorite, I have to say, and it's so simple. And then there are those paid versions that that you would need if you use it more. So something like I would use more.
Usually we can get quite a few enough features on the free versions. So it's most of these tools have a free version that are enough to start, at least to start as a VA. And then if you start having too many clients, which is a good thing for us, when it happens, then you can go to the pro version, the paid versions. Everything is quite easy to access now.
So I think it's a good piece of advice for new virtual assistants to just even ask people out there, a bit of advice that this is their specific job. They need a tool to do this, and then you can go out and find the tool. You get suggestions on what that tool would be best for you. And again, it's different for the business that you're in. So some tool might work beautifully for others, and some might not. So it's the same with, I think, social media platforms. It just depends on the person, the job they're doing, the clients they have. So you don't have to do it all. You just do the one that works best for you.
Exactly.
So you were saying you didn't have any specific VA training and it was just all learned online. Is there anything sort of advice-wise that you would give to new VAs? What would be a really great skill that would maybe put them above other VAs? What would make them stand out? I know yesterday we were talking quite a bit about language and how bad.
I believe language is now one of the most important tools that we can have. And if VA can offer another language other than English, which is mainly the basic language international, but all the other language are a must, are a plus to a VA, whether if it's Russian or Chinese or, well, these are really difficult language to learn. But if you learn Portuguese, for instance, you have access to the Brazilian market, to the African market, which are emergent markets for this for our type of work. So the most if you speak another a different language than English and French is already good. Yeah. But if you speak any other language other than these two, you will get a much larger market, and sometimes maybe not larger, but you can focus on a certain certain market where you can offer your service, and you will be different on that offering that service, and that will always be a plus.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I was saying to Linda yesterday, my extent of Portuguese is one line, but when I was told the first time I used como é que você se chama, I was told I sounded Brazilian. I don't know how useful this is going to be, but
very good. You said it quite good. Not very Brazilian. No, I am Portuguese. It's Portuguese Brazilian and Portuguese from Portugal and Portuguese from Brazil, and it's very different. Even for us, it's quite different. But it's understandable, quite understandable if you speak one or the other. For instance, you can't imagine the difference when you are talking on Facebook or Twitter. When you speak with a Brazilian person, it's really different.
Yeah.
But to speak normally in business for business purpose, it's quite okay.
Well, I can't see me ever having to speak to any Brazilians in Portuguese, so we're hopefully not going to worry about it too much.
Never say no. Never say never.
Right. Never say never, because you do not know what's going to happen. I didn't know I was going to be a VA 5 years ago, so yes, never say never. That's another good piece of advice, actually. So yesterday we were talking about how you manage your working life, and as a VA, it's very different to the normal, say 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever your working hours are. How do you manage your working life?
Well, at the beginning when I started, I actually had to work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And
it's a long day.
It was full time, and I had to be up at 8 a.m. I had to be in front of the computer. Now it's easier because I'm only working 2 days per week for this company, and the rest of the time I arrange the hours that I work for each client that I have. I don't have many clients at the moment. I have other than this company that I work since 2013, I have 4 or 5 other clients. I manage when I work for them, the hours. I don't have to be at certain specific fixed hours in front of the computer working for them. I have a client that I work from in the evening, from 8 to 11 in the evening, and he's from France. So I can arrange my life. It's much easier to arrange my personal life and my working life like this. It's really one of the best things that we can have on this type of work. We can arrange. If you have children, I don't have children, but if I had, it would be very, very
oh yes, it's
much easier to manage my life and personal life with working life.
I think that's a good sort of way to talk about it as well. It may sound, oh no, I have to work at these hours, but it's not always that case. It's just for certain clients. It's how you make yourself flexible and available, and it does lend itself well to whatever situation your personal life is. And so if you can have a brilliant working life balance, it means you're a better worker, you're a better employee. So it actually helps your customer. So it's basically what suits you and suits your client best. And again, we were talking about yesterday how working culture is very different from place to place. And you were saying your clients,
of course.
French.
But of course, you have to be prepared when you get if you have a client, if you suddenly get a client from China or you get a client from Brazil, it's not going to be the same. You won't be able to work the same way to both of them, so it's quite different. Culture is something that defines also the way that we have to work, whether it's inside a company, in a team, or as a virtual assistant. And other also than the fact of the hours, the different hours you will have to work. So it's also up to us to define, to focus on certain clients, we can choose. We're not going to choose so many different clients to work for, because it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
You have to take a huge time to learn what a Chinese customer will ask, the language or whatever, even if it's everything, if it's in English, you will have much more difficulty, of course. I think there's a wide market out there for us as visual assistants, so we can focus on European markets, for instance. For me, it's easier as a Portuguese. It's easier to work for the Portuguese countries in Africa. The time is almost the same because the hourly days. For Brazil, there's a difference of 4 or 5 hours, but it's also a market that I can approach.
Yeah.
But I'm not so keen on the Asian markets because it's a different culture. Singapore is a little bit different because it's kind of a European country.
Yeah. I think it's a piece of advice that for any new VA starting there, if they're looking to work with a client that's outside of their jurisdiction, so to say, maybe do a little bit of research on how business is done, and then, as you say, you set at the start the working conditions that they expect from you and you expect from them as well. Because when I've worked for a company, I had to go to America and worked, and they were asking me, well, will we see you tomorrow? This was on a Friday, and they all came in on a Saturday, and I'm no, we don't do Saturdays. But that's what they were expected. That's what they did. And again, it was the same. We had specific training for working with people from India. It's just the way to maybe say things or how they approach things, and how they take criticism and how to approach that. And again, as you say, Singapore, I have a lot of experience in Singapore, personal experience rather than working experience, but it is a very European Asian culture, so there's a mix there. And again, Japanese is very different as well, and so it is a good piece of advice that, you know, take a look at where that client is based and tailor the way you work with them, but make sure that they understand how you choose to work as well, and then that way you'll have a great working relationship. But as you say, it's completely possible, and it's quite exciting to do that as well, I guess.
Yeah, Sure, absolutely.
So when you're talking about working for different markets like the French market and Portuguese, an African market, which is, as you say, an emerging market and somewhere that is going to be really great for virtual assistants, how do you actually go about getting those clients? How do you market yourself so that you get those clients? Like, is it through word of mouth? Is it referrals? Is it networking? Is it cold calling even? So how have you gone about doing it?
I use mainly social media. I use LinkedIn. Most of all, it's LinkedIn.
Lovely.
I try to get this virtual assistant job that I got was through LinkedIn. It was a direct invitation, and I use mainly social media, Twitter, Instagram also, but I focus mainly on LinkedIn. At the beginning, back in 2009, I love Twitter. Twitter has changed a little bit, quite a bit actually. And now Facebook is obviously one of the most important social media where we can be. I use Facebook also for training. Let me get back to our conversation back then. Facebook has great groups for virtual assistants to follow up and to learn quite a few things. It's really very good. So social media is where I make most of my contacts. For the networking events, I use here local events in Madeira. They are not usual, but whenever there is a workshop or a networking event after hours, I will be there. I will have my cards and I will distribute my cards. Nobody ever heard about virtual assistants here in Madeira, so I'm quite. It makes a difference.
Quite unique.
Yeah, way. And then also there's a tool that we should use. You know, there are fairs, online fairs for recruiters. And if you follow one of those sites, well, you have to find by searching, making a search. It's quite a good way of making contacts and with recruiters.
You were talking there about fairs online, and so this is something I actually haven't really looked at myself. So you're saying that there's online fairs that even VAs can make use of.
Of course, you can follow up, and then because all the recruiters will be there, and they are they use LinkedIn a lot, so it's a good spot to see if you can get some clients there. At least you will get free publicity. You'll get noticed. People will know that you exist, and that's important.
Yeah, so it's about increasing your visibility. So even if you don't get a work or a client there and then, at least you're in the minds of the recruiters there for the next time. So it is definitely something worthwhile looking into. So you were talking about challenges earlier, and you were saying about the going from working from a company to working for yourself. And are there any other major challenges that you found becoming a VA and how you've overcome them?
Well, it was basically how to use technology to be always updated on technology and how to use it for the best, how to best deliver your work, my work. It's important to use the technologies at a very high level. It's important to use Skype, Hangouts, wherever you want to use as a connection, depending on the clients. I have a client who even uses Instagram messaging to communicate with me. And so you have to be, we always have to be updated on technology. It's important. Basic things like our internet connection is something important. It's important to know how to solve your basic problems at home, and then all the applications, all the apps that you use on your phone. I have I have two telephones. One is Android. I had an iPhone before, but I now have two Androids. But it's important, and it's important to manage a little bit of the new technologies.
Yeah, I think when you say there, it's about constantly keeping yourself updated with the new technologies. You're talking about Instagram messaging, and then for new VAs, they maybe need to consider that their clients have customers themselves that are using WhatsApp.
Yeah,
And
I got a lot of files to WhatsApp. If it's a photo, whatever. If, I have I now use WhatsApp a lot because I have my clients that are using WhatsApp. They are outside. They have their phone, and it's cheap. Yeah, it's free, and it's quick. You get good photos, good documents. You can scan a document. You are wherever you are. You can take a picture of a document and send to your assistant. So it's important to follow up with those apps, and don't be upset because we will have more and more young clients.
yeah,
At the moment, we are used to work with a certain, well, I speak for myself, with a certain age of CEOs. They are usually over 40 years old. But we have to start thinking that we will have people on their 20s and 30s as clients, and they do not use emails or, well, email is still very important, but they would rather send you an Instagram photo or WhatsApp message to communicate with you, and you
yes.
have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, so it's like Snapchat and their audience being 16 to 24. So it is just like when we were talking earlier about the different cultures that you're working with, it's the different technologies that the different segments of those markets use as well. So it's quite important to be au fait and with all of those. Yeah, Snapchat still is something I need to get my head around, but we'll get there. So do you have any particular tools? I know before, or you mentioned earlier, talking about Skype and Hangouts, but are there any other tools that you really like, Toggle being one of them? Were there any other ones that you find vital for your VA work, or ones you really need?
Viber also, I use Viber also. I use everything related with Google. I use Gmail, I use Google Drive, but I have a paid version of for Google Drive actually. I use Bitly, for instance. For Bitly is the link shortener. It's very useful. I use it quite a lot actually. And then Trello. Trello is good when you have some projects that you have to follow up. It's good because you can have the other person, the client or other team players, updating at the same time with you, and you use it on your mobile phone. So everything which is mobile is very useful. I have Gmail on my phone with photos, with Google Drive. I use Google Translate. Thank you, Google. Google Translate, even if it's not accurate, but you will find always a way to get the meaning, something very fast, that something that you have to learn very quickly. You go to Google Translate. That's always on my screen is Google Translate. I just love it. And I am a contributor to Google Translate, by the way. It's important not just to go and pick up, you have to give also something. So I use Google Translate. One other thing, Google Maps. You can put yourself as virtual assistant, your business at Google Maps. And I recently found that my website is being visited through Google Maps, which is very important.
I have a little point there, and it's probably I'm a little biased because I used to work for a mapping company that was direct competition to Google Maps, so I have a little bias towards other mapping companies, but I'm not going to name them.
Wherever you use, it's important to be there.
Yeah.
Localization is something also which is developing a lot. So if you are on those apps, it's a plus. It's always a plus. The more you are visible online, the more the best it is for you and your business.
Yeah, I think as you say, that the more visibility that you have, and even if it's because you're a virtual assistant and you're offering a service, it's still important to get a pinpoint that somebody can go, oh right, okay, so there is a proper person there behind that sort of virtual service. So yeah, maps are good, but I'm an ex-geographer, so I'm always going to say that.
Yeah. To use not for our client only, but for our own use. I would like to mention Canva. I use Canva a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes even when I'm in bed in the morning, I pick up my phone and I start working on. There's an app for Android which is called Designer. So I just take a picture or a motivational quote and I launch to my Facebook page as visual assistant. So it's something that is, we have to find these apps and use them for our business to improve our visibility always.
I think to find those apps, more than the ones we kind of talked about, it's important to maybe be part of certain virtual assistant groups or even just business groups out there. So the ones on Facebook or even LinkedIn, because you can ask whatever question you need to and have you talk with other VAs. It's like there is no stupid question. We're all out there starting ourselves on our own, but we're not really, because being a part of that group is the support network that we need. So yeah.
Yes, good point. Groups are important, and it's also a way of facing our isolation when we work. I follow a Facebook group that I enjoy very much. I believe you know it also. It's Amanda's groups. And there's a lot of things that I learn on that group. It's really very full of information, and but there are also I have other groups in LinkedIn where I follow up also Portuguese and foreign, mainly many English and American groups. It's important to follow up on that.
I think just even being part of those groups for your business purposes and getting advice, but also just for your general mental health and well-being. And you can go to those groups and go, oh, have you had this happen to you? Or have you had your Zoom crash on you? What do you do? So I think it's just, for personal circumstances as well, it's still good to be part of those groups. And we were talking yesterday about how we, maybe need to set aside more time for ourselves to be a good VA, so you were saying you do yoga.
Yes.
And
it's been about almost a year that I don't go to classes, but that's because I am I'm not so stressed at the moment, but yoga is for me it's amazing. And yes, it's important to it actually is very important to keep fit, because we sit long hours in front of the computer. Our eyes also are tired at the end of the day. My eyes are tired at the end of the day. And so when you go to yoga and you just out of this world a little bit, and you close your eyes, you make movements that you don't make on the daily life, on the long hours sitting here. It's important to be fit, because mind and body, we have to be well to be able to face this challenge, this everyday challenge. It's difficult to work alone. And especially when people don't even understand what is a VA. Some people think that, oh, you are working home, okay, you work remotely, you can go to the beach or you can go to a cafe and be all there all for me that doesn't work. I cannot work on the beach. You can't even see the screen.
Yeah.
Because of the lightning, and then the noise and every everybody disturbs you.
Yeah.
I must work from home, focused and organized. I cannot work outside.
I think it's trying to get across to people and businesses that VAs are very professional and skilled and experienced people. That they are not just skipping off to the beach, because as you say, it's not actually possible working on the beach. As much as I would like to, it's not going to happen. So yeah, it's trying to educate people that a virtual assistant, somebody really well experienced and professional. So on that end note, and I can hear my 3-year-old downstairs, I want to say congratulations on your business. You've been running it for like 5 years now. So for any business, not just a VA, that's an achievement. And so congratulations on that. And I really hope it continues on for you, and wherever that may be, because as we talked about yesterday and we said today, you just never say never, you don't know. So it'll be exciting to hear your journey and where you go. But just to say thank you very much for coming to talk to me today and giving your advice, tips and tricks, and I hope to hear again from you soon.
Thank you, Gail. It was a pleasure. Thank you for this invitation. I do hope we stay in touch, and thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Bye.